Let's get started with our first news update. Sean Strickland predicts Chamayv versus DDP. It looks like Khamzat Chimaev might finally be facing his toughest stylistic challenge yet in Dricus Du Plessis, at least according to two men who know a thing or two about both fighters, Chael Sonnen and Sean Strickland. Recently, both men broke down the upcoming potential matchup, and their analysis has sparked serious debate across the MMA community. Chael Sonnen, known for his sharp mind and deep understanding of fighting styles, raised some critical questions that many fans might be overlooking. He pointed out that while Chimaev has steamrolled his way through most opponents, this fight could be different. Chael specifically questioned whether Chimaev will be able to take Du Plessis down at will, or more importantly, keep him there. According to Sonnen, if Dricus can defend the early takedowns and avoid spending too much time on the mat, it could completely change the momentum of the fight. But on the flip side, if Chamayv is able to impose his wrestling early and drag DDP down in the first round, then things might spiral fast in favor of the undefeated Chechen. Despite those concerns, Sonnen still expects Chamayv to be the betting favorite, but he made it very clear that fans should not underestimate Du Plessis' grit, durability, and underrated grappling. Then there's Sean Strickland, a man who has shared the cage with Du Plessis twice, making him uniquely qualified to weigh in. In a recent interview with Helen Yee, Strickland echoed many of Sonnen's thoughts. He acknowledged Chimaev's elite wrestling and his relentless forward pressure, but he also emphasized one critical point. If Dricus can stuff the takedowns and counter wrestle, he wins the fight, hands down. Strickland, never one to hold back his opinions, even made a bold comment, saying that he could handle most of those effing Chechens in the gym. But when it comes to DDP, he's not sure the South African can do the same. However, he added, if Dricus can deal with that kind of pressure, if he can neutralize the wrestling, then the belt isn't going anywhere. This potential title bout is already shaping up to be one of the most electrifying matchups of the year. The clash of styles, the undefeated streak, and the personal insights from fighters who've been in the octagon with these men, it's all adding fuel to an already burning fire of hype. So what do you think, fight fans? Will Khamzat Chimaev overwhelm Dricus Du Plessis in the early rounds and score another dominant finish? Or will the South African weather the storm, push the pace late, and outlast the undefeated powerhouse over 5 hard rounds to solidify himself as the dominant force at 185 pounds? Let us know in the comments below. This one could go either way. Moving on to our second news story. What if both Ilia and Islam lose their fights? Luke Thomas reacts. Can you imagine what would happen if both Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria were to lose their upcoming fights? This is not just a what-if scenario. It's a nightmare that analyst Luke Thomas recently laid out in detail. According to Luke, the prospect of Islam falling short in his welterweight debut against Jack Della Maddalena, combined with Ilia getting stopped by Charles Oliveira, would be nothing short of an absolute disaster for the UFC. And honestly, he's not wrong. While this outcome is far from the most likely result, both fighters are highly skilled and come in with strong momentum. The implications of such a double loss would be massive and reverberate throughout the sport. The UFC is already navigating a period of star power drought. Let's be real, Alex Pereira just lost his title, and Conor McGregor, who for years was the biggest name in the sport, is currently more famous for his off-the-wall antics, including sniffing substances off some very questionable surfaces, rather than for his fighting prowess. So he's not really carrying the torch right now. That leaves fighters like Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria as some of the few current headliners who still have global traction and growing fan bases. Islam, coming off dominant performances, represents not just elite grappling, but also a connection to the massive Russian and Dagestani MMA markets. Meanwhile, Ilia is an exciting young prospect who's rapidly making a name for himself with his dynamic striking and aggressive style, and he's building a loyal following in Europe and beyond. If either one of them falls in their upcoming fights, it would be a significant blow to the UFC's narrative of rising new stars. But if both were to go down, that would be a full-blown crisis. These two champions are more than just fighters. They are symbols of the UFC's hopes for maintaining international reach and long-term star power. Losing their momentum, even temporarily, would further expose the promotion's struggle to create new blockbuster stars who can fill the void left by previous legends. So if Topuria loses to Charles Oliveira and Islam loses to Jack Della Maddalena, what does the UFC even do next? How does the promotion rebuild excitement and maintain relevance in key markets? Luke Thomas noted some potential paths forward. Islam might move back down to lightweight, where he's more comfortable, or perhaps get a #1 contender fight to climb his way back. But the stakes feel even higher for Ilia, because he's just beginning his run as a potential global superstar. Luke also pointed out another compounding factor. If both Islam and Ilia lose, and the highly anticipated Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight never materializes, then we could be looking at an all-time disaster of a year for the UFC. A perfect storm of lost opportunities and fading star power. The UFC is at a crossroads. Will these fighters rise to the occasion, or will the promotion's search for the next big thing hit a major roadblock? What's your take, fight fans? Can Islam and Ilia save the UFC's year, or are we headed for a starless season? Let's move on to another intriguing update in the UFC world. Ilia Topuria responds to Paddy Pimblett. For a brief moment, it seemed like the long-standing tension between Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett might have cooled off. Fans had hoped that the two fighters, who have been embroiled in a heated rivalry for quite some time, were finally putting their differences aside. But now, as Topuria makes the move up to lightweight and prepares to fight for the title, those simmering tensions have flared up once again, reigniting the verbal battle between El Matador and the Baddie. If you've been following the saga, you know that this rivalry is anything but new. The feud between these two fighters has been bubbling under the surface for months. However, things appeared to have calmed down for a little while after Ilia claimed the featherweight title, and Paddy steadily climbed the lightweight rankings. The situation even seemed to reach a truce following their friendly fist bump backstage at UFC London, a moment that many took as a sign the beef was over. But fast forward to today, and the verbal warfare has returned with a vengeance. Recently, Paddy Pimblett, known for his bold personality and candid interviews, didn't hold back when talking about Ilia Topuria. Pimblett claimed that Topuria's path to the title has been hand-fed by the UFC. According to the Scouser fighter, Ilia's impressive wins over two of the sport's biggest names, Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, are somewhat suspect. Pimblett argues that both Volkanovski and Holloway were not at their best when they faced Topuria, as they were coming off brutal knockout losses or hard-fought wars that left them vulnerable. Pimblett also took the opportunity to hype up his own place in the sport's hierarchy, saying that apart from the highly anticipated matchup between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, a fight between him and Topuria would be one of the biggest and most exciting bouts in the entire UFC. When Ilia Topuria was recently asked about Pimblett's comments during an interview with WOW 19, he didn't hold back either. Topuria took the chance to poke fun at Pimblett's extravagant lifestyle, specifically referencing the lavish afterparty Pimblett threw on a private yacht after his victory over Michael Chandler at UFC 314. With a smirk, Ilia quipped, "Paddy knows where the money is now. He's gotta pay for the parties he throws." This lighthearted jab highlights the ongoing tension, but also shows that Topuria isn't fazed by the Scouser's criticism. He's ready to let the talk fuel the fire for what could be a massive showdown. Private yachts and lavish parties aside, the big question on every fight fan's mind remains: do you see Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett happening anytime soon? This potential matchup has all the ingredients for a blockbuster event. Two dynamic fighters, a heated rivalry, and a battle for lightweight supremacy. Whether it's fueled by personal animosity, championship ambitions, or simply the draw of an electrifying fight, fans are eager to see if these two can finally settle their differences inside the octagon. Stay tuned as we keep a close eye on this developing story. Now, because if Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett do face off, it could be one of the most talked about fights of the year. Let's talk about another update that has recently come to light in the MMA world: Morab Dvalishvili's health problems before the Umar Nurmagomedov fight. It turns out that Morab Dvalishvili, known for his relentless pace and iron will inside the cage, was actually facing some serious health challenges leading up to his recent fight against Umar Nurmagomedov. This is something many fans didn't know at the time, as Morab's performance was nothing short of outstanding. But behind the scenes, he was battling some significant setbacks that made his victory even more impressive. Coach John Wood, who works closely with Morab, recently gave an eye-opening interview with MMAfighting.com, revealing just how tough things were for Morab going into that fight. According to Wood, this matchup was going to be one of the toughest challenges of Morab's career. Wood said he even expects that they will face Umar again in the future, as the fight was highly competitive, but the win is on Morab's record, and despite all the rumors about Umar being injured or not at 100%, Wood emphasized just how difficult it was for Morab himself. Wood candidly shared, "Well, Morab was half dead going into that fight." That's a stark statement, and it highlights just how serious Morab's condition was. He went on to describe the health issues Morab was dealing with at the time: an open wound, a staph infection, infection, and being on heavy antibiotics. These are not minor ailments, especially when you consider the physical demands of training and fighting at the highest level of MMA. Wood admitted that if it had been his call alone, he probably would have pulled Morab out of the fight to protect his health, but Morab's toughness and determination pushed him through. Despite barely being able to walk due to the infection and wounds, Morab still managed to get in 10 rounds of sparring, and Wood said his performance looked phenomenal given the circumstances. Wood shared some insight into his mindset during the fight. I knew he could do it. In my head, I was like, we're gonna win this fight. But at the same time, I was thinking, Jesus, he's so banged up. That's a testament to Morab's warrior mentality, showing how much heart and grit he brought to the cage that night. Wood didn't hold back when addressing the rumors and excuses coming from Umar's camp. He criticized the narrative that Umar was injured or had excuses for his performance. You guys asked for the fight. You wanted it before Ramadan. Now it's, oh, my hand was hurt. Everyone's always got excuses, Wood said. He contrasted that with Morab's approach, insisting that if Morab ever loses a fight, fans won't hear excuses from him. This whole situation sheds new light on just how remarkable Morab Dvalishvili's win over Umar Nurmagomedov really was. Battling through serious health issues and still performing at an elite level shows why Morab is considered one of the toughest competitors in the division. It also adds fuel to the potential for an exciting rematch in the future. Stay tuned as we watch this rivalry develop and see what's next for both fighters. Now, with an insightful breakdown from Michael Bisping regarding the upcoming title fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus Du Plessis. Michael Bisping, a former UFC middleweight champion and a seasoned analyst, recently weighed in on this highly anticipated matchup, highlighting one crucial factor that may give Khamzat a significant edge: his recent move up to middleweight at 185 pounds. Bisping explained that Chimaev's decision to fight at middleweight is not just a tactical choice, but a necessary one for his long-term health and performance. Previously, Khamzat was competing at welterweight, cutting down to 170 pounds, which involved brutal and punishing weight cuts. According to Bisping, these extreme cuts took a serious toll on Chimaev's body, making it difficult for him to perform at his best and recover properly between fights. Moving up to 185 pounds allows Chimaev to avoid that massive physical drain. He can now recover better, breathe easier, and ultimately perform without the lingering fatigue that plagued his welterweight career. Bisping went on to encourage other fighters who struggle with tough weight cuts to consider moving up a division, emphasizing that the long-term benefits, including better health and improved fight performance, are absolutely worth it. This is especially relevant for Chamayv, who has had a history of health problems since his UFC debut. From botched weight cuts to severe COVID complications that nearly forced him to retire from the sport, his road hasn't been easy. These setbacks have made many fans question his cardio, especially beyond the third round. While he is undeniably a monster in the early stages of fights, his endurance in the later rounds remains somewhat of a mystery. This brings a fascinating dynamic to the upcoming 5-round title bout against Dricus Du Plessis. Du Plessis is known for his elite cardio and relentless pressure, having survived grueling battles against fighters like Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya without slowing down. Though Du Plessis may not be the flashiest or cleanest striker, his toughness, stamina, and ability to dig deep late in fights are undeniable. So while Chimaev might dominate early rounds with his aggression and wrestling prowess, the real question becomes, what happens in rounds 4 and 5? This is where Du Plessis has the potential to take control, leveraging his endurance and pressure to turn the tide. Bisping's analysis suggests that the championship fight will likely be decided in those final rounds, making it a true test of heart and conditioning for both fighters. Will Chimaev's move to middleweight give him the cardio boost he needs to go the distance? Or will Du Plessis' proven stamina and resilience prove too much? This compelling matchup is shaping up to be one of the most exciting and unpredictable title fights of the year, and the world will be watching closely to see who comes out on top. Finally, let's cover this quick but spicy update from the UFC world. Paddy Pimblett recently sent a clear and calculated message to fellow lightweight contender Ilia Topuria, and it's got fans buzzing. Paddy stated that it would actually be better for his own career if Ilia defeats Charles Oliveira and becomes the new lightweight champion. At first glance, that might sound like a surprising endorsement, but Paddy's reasoning is pretty straightforward. He believes that if Ilia captures the belt, Paddy would be the natural choice to face him as the first title defense. That means Paddy sees a huge opportunity in Ilia winning. A shot at the lightweight championship sooner rather than later. This could be a perfect storm for Pimblett, who has been rising rapidly in the lightweight rankings and is eager to make a big splash on the global stage. To emphasize his point, Paddy took to Instagram and posted a striking photo of himself landing a powerful head kick on Michael Chandler, one of his most notable recent wins. The caption, "Can't wait to land one of these on," clearly implying that Ilia Topuria is the intended target for that devastating kick. This subtle yet bold message adds more fuel to the brewing rivalry between these two talented fighters. While Paddy is well known for his outspoken personality and flair, Ilia has steadily built his reputation as a skilled, composed, and dangerous fighter. Fans and analysts alike are now speculating if a showdown between Pimblett and Topuria is on the horizon. Could Paddy's prediction come true? Will Ilia win the belt and then face Paddy in what promises to be an electrifying lightweight title fight? Only time will tell. In any case, the UFC lightweight division is heating up, and the drama between these two fighters is only adding to the excitement.